Hey, how we doing?
Guys all good in the back? All right, we will turn it over to Coach Montgomery.
Hey, been an exciting morning as always. I mean, with early signing period, guys that you've been working on for a year or more. You've built great relationships with them and their parents, and watched them have great seasons as they've gone through it. But this morning's always special because of just the anticipation of it all. You're seeing guys that have worked extremely hard to make their dreams come true and have the opportunity to continue to keep playing this game and playing it at an extremely high level. And so we are really, really excited about this class. This is a class that we think is probably the best class that we've signed here from top to bottom. Just a lot of speed in it, a lot of length in it. As our conference continues to grow, we've got to continue to keep growing with it, and I think this class really accomplishes that. From an offensive line standpoint, able to add 3 guys right now, that one of them being a JC offensive tackle, James being able to come in and give us an opportunity to continue to keep growing there. You got Gabe out of Union, a local kid that it's just – you've watched him grow and mature, has done such a phenomenal job, and great family, and what he is bringing to the table, and feel like he can come in here and do a great job for us at the center spot, which he played this year for Union. Dylan from Houston is just he's a guy that's aggressive. He comes off the football. He plays with the type of intensity that you need. He can move. He can bend. He's a guy that just brings so much to the table. As you continue to keep going down that list, I mean, you look at the D-line part of it, you got Hayden Grant over at Owasso who got him another state championship. We've got a lot of guys on this signing class that have won a ton of games, whether that be state championships, whether that be their team went 13-1 or 13-2, or, those guys that have been in programs that have been successful in bringing that same type of intensity to our program here and continuing to raise levels. But Hayden had a great year and really sealed off the state game with a great play there. And, Rico kind of doing the same thing with what he's done at Carl Albert, and so proud of those guys and the level that they've brought to their teams and to their schools. You look at Everett out of Killeen, who plays with great pad level, great hands, has a great motor. You just continue to go down the list, and you look at these guys. I mean, Sean O'Keefe from San Saba, Texas, who probably most people in this room don't even know where San Saba is. But this guy's a top 10 Texas high school player right now in the whole state, and just did so much, playing safety, playing receiver, playing quarterback, playing running back. Does a little bit of everything for them. So excited to see what he's going to bring to our secondary. He's a guy with length and speed and can really move around back there and has a great feel for the game. You think about our quarterback signee in Roman Fuller, who, he's thrown for 4,000 yards as a junior, I think, and right around that again as a senior. Continued to do great things. I mean, half the time his dad's the head coach, and he's out there with the opportunity of being able to call some of his own plays, being able to execute those things. So his football IQ is just off the charts, and so he's graduating early, going to be here early and get a chance to go through spring ball. So I'm excited to see his growth as that comes through. You look at the weapons we're trying to add around him with the 2 receivers, both of them from the Houston area. Both of them caught right around, I think, 900 yards this year, sitting there around 10 to 15 touchdowns apiece. But these are guys that just make big plays in big games. Slim or Jalen, he's a guy that, I think in playoff game number 3, he catches a ball over the middle, makes a huge play, loses his shoe and his sock. How that happens, I don't know, but just continues to get down the field and score. And so it's just with Jalen and with Malachi, both of those guys I think are going to bring so much to the table. You look at the tight ends, one of them being a JC guy, one of them being a high school guy out of Houston, Bain and Jacob both, I think are going to bring so much to the table to us. I mean, guys that can do it as far as a blocking standpoint, but also allow us to do some things in the passing game that we haven't really been able to do as much in the past. These guys are great route runners. They do a great job extending the field, but also are going to add that umph to us that we need in the run game part of it. And so you think about the two corners that we're signing, and I think these guys kind of fit our mold of corners. I mean, they're long, they're athletic, they're guys that are very physical. They can support when it comes to the run game part of it, but do everything that you want them to do in the coverage part of it, just with that length. I mean, very typical of what we've been recruiting at the corner spot, and these guys, I think, are just going to add to that mix. Devontae Betts, that's coming out of Arlington as the linebacker spot of it, a guy that can really move, probably looking at him more as a star part, but he's played safety, he's played receiver, he's played outside linebacker, he's got a nose for the football, he gets around it, got a great motor. And we can go down the list, and I hope, I don't want to leave anybody out, but obviously y'all got questions as we go through it. But this is a great class, a great start to a class. We're going to have the opportunity to continue to keep adding on to this class, whether that be we've got some transfer things that are happening right now. We still got some guys out there that are continuing to go through the process that we're going through the process with, and feel like we're going to be able to continue to add greatness to this class that has started off with such a bang.
Questions?
You know where San Saba is?
I've been to San Saba, called basketball games there, played basketball games there when I was in high school, so yes.
2 hours northwest of Austin. I looked it up. Had no idea.
I wouldn't have even said it that way, but you're coming from the Austin, that's probably true.
That's the best way I could find it on the map. Sticking closer to home, the numbers from the Tulsa area, I think 2 guys, not as big as normal, but 2 guys that are pretty high up there in terms of the Tulsa ranks. What is it about getting these Tulsa guys here, keeping them home?
Yeah, we try to do a great job of trying to recruit Tulsa area kids. We know how important that is. Number one, guys right here in town, and keeping kids home, keeping talent in Tulsa has always been something that we try to put a stamp to. And we got 2 really, really good ones this year. Feel great about what their growth and development is going to be. Feel like they've got an extremely high ceiling of what they're going to be able to do. And you're coming from programs that are done the right way. Both you're talking about Union and Owasso. I mean, those two programs have produced tons of kids every year. We've got to continue to keep staying in those ranks with them. But Bill and Fred both, they do a great job. Their kids come here, they compete. They do well when they get here, and that's always important. And they're coming from winning programs, which you want to continue to keep striving to get kids like that.
How important was it to get Tyler here, especially because, some of the issues you guys had in the kicking game this past season?
Yeah, I'm really excited about Tyler. I mean, the ball just explodes off of his foot. I mean, he's a guy that can do a lot of different things in the kicking game, but anytime you get an opportunity to get a guy that is as talented as he is, and now he's got to come here and hone his skills, continue to improve his craft. But he's a guy that has made big kicks in big games and done it from a lot of different yardage areas. And so I'm excited to get him here, and he's a major component, obviously, to this class.
You mentioned Hayden and Rico and their state championships. Is that something you look at, or like a asset to add of those guys who are just in programs that continually win like that?
Well, you're obviously looking for guys coming from great programs and guys that are competing at a high level. When those guys commit, you don't know if they're going to win a state championship or not, but they're on teams that they're going to be competing for one. And it does make a difference. Those guys that have been in programs that are used to winning, that have that winning mindset, that have been kind of down those ranks and understand the grind that you've got to go through to get yourself to that level. And so every year as you're looking at it and you see, as you kind of read through those bios of those guys that have joined our family today, a lot of those are coming from just outstanding high tradition type programs that have been doing it for years and years.
You mentioned corners you recruited have that length that kind of
Yeah.
fit your mold. Why do you go after those guys like that?
Well, I mean, those are guys, especially with what we're doing defensively. Our corners have got to be involved in the run game part of it from the run support, but they also got to do a great job in coverage. That length and being able to flip your hips and turn and do some things from a man coverage standpoint. You look at the receivers that are in our league, you know, there's a lot of great ones, and a lot of those guys have got length, so you've got to be able to match up with them. And I think these young guys coming in carry all those traits. They've got length, they're good with their hands, they're physical at the line of scrimmage, they can help us in the run support part of it. But as you get down, especially in that red zone area where you know you're going to have to man up and do some things from a coverage standpoint, these guys create those opportunities for us.
The quarterback was Roman.
Roman.
Yeah. Didn't see any rushing numbers listed. Saw him as kind of a prototypical pocket guy. Is that? What we're
Yeah,
looking
he's
at?
done most of his stuff from the pocket. Has been pretty prolific back there doing it. Not saying he can't run, but obviously he's kind of built everything off of his arm up to this point. And so I think he gives the athleticism that he's going to be able to get outside of the pocket and do some things. But his main cup of tea is going to be standing back there and being able to spin it, be very accurate with the football. He does a good job recognizing coverages and putting guys in situations to go make plays. And that's what he's done, in my opinion, throughout his career. He's raised the level of the people around him and has really carried them deep into the playoffs as he's, worked through his career there at Decatur.
Is there obviously you want all these kids to make an impact right away. Are there many specific kids that you think will be that guy that can step in and immediately fill a role?
Yeah, I would love to redshirt all of them. And then obviously with the 4-game rule part of it being an opportunity for those guys to get in and get some experience, we got 9 guys coming back offensively. So there's a chance maybe 1 or 2 guys could kind of fall in line there, but those guys are going to have to come in and really compete at a high level. I think there's some guys on this list that are talented enough to do that. Now you got to see how they're going to come in and be able to, absorb all the information schematically and be able to execute at a high level. There is a step up, and the speed of the game changes. So those guys are going to be better at 21 and 22 than they are at 18. We've always had freshmen that have had to play around here every year. So we'll see how it all works itself out.
You mentioned that you're not done, that there's still some chance in the transfer portal and whatnot. How many more keys or pieces to the puzzle do you need to pick up?
Yeah, we've got a handful of things out there that we're still working on. We've got some guys that, from a transfer standpoint, that have already solidified themselves here. We've got to wait a little bit before we can really release those guys and talk about them, but feel really – well, I mean, we're extremely excited about them, guys that can really make an impact on what you're doing. And so we've got a handful of things still out there that are kind of working, and I think we could probably add, 2 or 3 more guys before the end of this. You got a 3-day signing period right here, so we could probably add 2 or 3 more guys in that mix before we even get to the February part.
I know this recruitment process is a busy time, but have you had some time to take a look back at the past season and reflect on it? And if not, will you take some time in the next couple weeks to do so?
Yeah, we'll reflect back. I mean, I'll probably do that. I mean, we hit the ground running pretty quick right after the last game and been hitting the ground from a recruiting standpoint and trying to get this part wrapped up. Obviously, you've watched the end of it. You've done some reflecting on that part of it. You're always doing that as a coach. You want to make sure that you're always doing a good job of evaluating you and your staff and making sure that we're all pointed in the right direction. And so I'm excited about the direction that our program is heading. I'm excited about the kids that we've got coming back, and I'm excited about this signing class that we have in front of us to add to this family here.
You mentioned Roman Fuller coming early. Is there any other guys you expect to come early with them?
Yeah, we got obviously James is coming early, James Middleton, the offensive lineman that'll be here in January. Jacob, the tight end, he'll be here early. We got a couple of transfer guys that I think will fall into that mix, and so I think we could have anywhere from, 5 to 8 guys possibly that could come in here early and have a chance to really go through spring ball and off season and compete.
You You know, it just seems like a semester. How big is that semester for those guys that get to come over?
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
really big. I mean, number one, you get an opportunity to work with our strength staff in EA, and they do just such a phenomenal job of that. You get here, you get adapted, you get a chance to, spring ball. There's so much teaching. Your installation slows down a little bit because you want to make sure that you're getting all your base stuff in and really building off of that and giving a chance to really see where each position is kind of headed as you're going into the fall. So a lot of competition goes on in the spring, and jobs can be won and lost, obviously, during that time period. So spring's vital. It gives you an opportunity to really get ahead.
Yeah. So you go down the list. You got Oklahoma and Texas, and then James is from South Carolina, but he went to Jones County, which is Mississippi. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So how do you go find that guy?
Well, you're every which way that you can. I mean, you're looking for a guy. I mean, James was actually a defensive tackle coming out of high school, and then ended back up in the JC ranks and switched over to offensive line, and so he hasn't played offensive line nearly as long as some of these other guys, but he's brought that defensive side mentality to the offensive line, and so really athletic, very aggressive, does a good job with his hands, is still learning the technique part of it, but his physical attributes were just too much to pass up, and so I think he's going to really fit into our O-line group and add a lot of dimensions to that. And, Coach Blesh and Nick Franny, I mean, those guys did a great job of finding him, recruiting him, got him on campus. Mother came with him, such a great lady, and so it's going to be a good match for both sides.
Me? Oh, okay. I know you said there might be some players coming in that haven't officially been announced yet, but I don't see a running back on this list. You pretty happy with what you got, obviously, right now?
Yeah, I mean, we're really we've got some guys we have a lot of confidence in, right? And but as you look at the running back group, I feel good where we're at. I think possibly you could see a name or two pop up in that area, and so we'll just kind of wait and see how it plays itself out.
Shortly after season, Derek Greg just kind of publicly reassured your position. Was that big as far as going into recruiting and the timing of it? Just
Obviously, myself and my family and our staff, we want to be here, and we feel like we've got a really good team coming back, and to have the reassurance and the confidence from our board of trustees, from our president, and from our AD and Dr. Gregg was big, and so I feel very confident in the direction of our program and the way it's heading, and the amount of talent that we've got coming back, and excited about next season and the opportunities to step back on the field and go get the job done.
Looking at your list, you have 2 junior college transfers and the rest are high school. Do you like the idea of having a freshman coming out of high school more, where you have them for the 4 to 5 years depending on the redshirt status, or is it just how the cards play this year?
Yeah, some of it's how the cards flip, but I think generally speaking, you like to be able to continue to build from the high school ranks, have a kid come in and see his progression as he's coming through, as you're continuing to – you're always going to have a couple of JC guys or transfer guys that are going to come in and help you from a depth standpoint that can be immediate guys. But I think in general you'd rather build it from the high schools and let it kind of cultivate itself. I mean, you take a guy like a Travis Gibson who comes in here 205 pounds and leaves here 270 pounds, and you see his progression and all the moves that he made to get himself ready. And so those things are important, and I think it's the way you want to build your program. Now, obviously, with the new transfer portal, it's caused some different things to happen, and so you're continuing to work through that process as we get more familiar and more data as we work through the transfer part.
Kind of the yearly question here, but how have you guys adjusted or adapted to this early signing period? Is it something you guys have grown to appreciate, or is it still kind of difficult?
Yeah, I think it's still a really positive thing. I mean, you know exactly where you stand after this one, and so you're able to know these guys are committed and they're in the family and they're a part of your program. And now with the few spots that you have left, you're able to really pinpoint those guys and do a great job of nailing down what you specifically need to kind of finish up your class, as well as getting a little bit of a jump start on the 21s. And so recruiting never stops. You're always in the mode of it, and you got to continue to keep recruiting at a high level.
Anything else, Coach?
With this signing day class, do you have any funny story that you had getting one of these guys here?
Oh, I mean, there's always stories that go on in recruiting. These guys we've known most of them for an extended amount of time, whether they've come up for junior days, come up for practices, been here for camps. A ton of these guys have come to camps, getting an opportunity to go in their homes and sit down with their families. That's probably the most enjoyable part of it, because, when they come here, they're kind of in your surroundings. And when you get to go to their homes and they get the comfort of that part of it. And so there's always great stories, but as far as something that just jumped off the page that was just kind of out there, haven't had any of that yet. We still got a whole nother month, so we'll see what happens.
Anything else, Coach? Thank you all.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.
Merry Christmas.
You all too.